Hi, almost everyone is watching my channel without a subscription. Please support me and subscribe. I release videos every day for you. Story 1. Aita for housing my daughter by not my stepdaughter. Hi everyone, this is a doozy, and I think I might be the but I wanted some opinions. I'm a 48 meters who inherited a beach house from my grandfather. The house has been in my family for generations, and it has a lot of sentimental value to me. I am now with my long-term girlfriend for 7 years after a divorce from my first wife, which ended on good terms. She has a daughter from a previous marriage, and I have a daughter from my marriage as well. Our daughters are each 17, with mine being basically 3 months younger. Kara, the oldest, will be 18 in May. Kara has been in my life for 7 years, and we have a good relationship. However, she has an active father in her life, so I did not fill that role. I was in her life 50% of the time, so I have no doubt I played a large role in her life. But I wouldn't say father, but others do say a non-legal stepfather. I have my daughter, Emmy, half-time as well, aside from summers, where I had her more due to my and my ex's lifestyle. With that said, my ex and I have a good relationship, as does our daughter with all of us. Kara and Emmy have gotten along, and they are friendly. They have made plans independent of myself and my GF, but they don't consider themselves sisters or best friends. Now to the issue. Kara will be going to school near the beach house and has asked if she can live in it to save the money, which would be significant. Emmy approached me and has said she wanted to live there after the summer, but wanted to live alone while also in school. The home is more than big enough for two, but she pointed out that they have very different lifestyles and would be far more comfortable alone or with a friend if I insisted she live with someone. It was a frank conversation, and she brought up the fact that the home will be hers one day, so it made sense, and she's right, the home will be hers by law in a few years, as I will pass it to her. My GF and Kara are very upset and calling it favoritism, and pointing out that she will already be set for life between having a free ride to school via scholarships and housing, while Kara will be using loans, and may have to take a gap year or attend another school altogether. They are asking me to reconsider, and I think I've damaged my relationship. Aita for this decision. I agree that it's favoritism, but Emmy is my daughter. Of course I'm going to favor her, right? Comments. Top comment, NTA. You're Kara's mom's boyfriend and not Kara's stepfather, seeing as you're not married. Kara's dad needs to step up and support her if money is an issue. Other posters agree OP is NTA. This is not in any way favoritism because you aren't married and you do not share assets. You haven't legally adopted Kara, and the house isn't some asset the girlfriend will ever be entitled to. Girlfriend and Kara are acting entitled and are 100% in the wrong. I would put the house in your daughter's name as soon as she turns 18 and let them know you have no say in what she chooses to do with her property. Again, they were never entitled to any part of this lake house. Exactly, since it's mentioned that her bio dad is actively in her life. Chances are that neither Kara's mom nor dad have that kind of money. But that doesn't change the fact that the daughter who is in line to inherit that house doesn't want to live there with Kara, and apparently has non-petty reasons for that wish. OP is NTA, but this might still be the end of the relationship. She's not trying to steal inheritance. She's trying to get help from someone who's been in her life for like half/third of her life. He may not have married her mom yet, but he has been dating her for like 7 years. Fence-sitting posts. They are not for asking, but they are off for not accepting no as an answer and finding it unfair that he treats his own daughter differently than his not even stepdaughter. She wants to go there for school, not live there permanently. He's still not the asshole, but I don't think she or her mom are either. Posters disagree. OP is TA. Not the point. OP has the ability to help Kara out. A child whose life he's been in for 7 years, whose mother he is dating at little cost to himself. The girls living together as a roommate situation during school is hardly uncommon, and learning to deal/live with people who live different lifestyles and whatnot is a valuable skill. I have to go against the mob here and say ITA, OP. It's still your house, not your daughter's. You've admitted that the area is barely affordable for a middle-class family, let alone a student, and that neither your partner or her ex would be able to contribute enough financially to make finding secure housing feasible. Ultimately, it's your call to make. Your bio daughter would like, but certainly doesn't need, a whole-ass house to herself, whereas the girl who has been in your life for the past 7 years needs safe and affordable housing. Give in to your bio daughter's demands, and you'll be showing your partner exactly how much she and hers mean to you. Very little. This could be a relationship killer. Update. I spoke to Emmy and her mom and let them know where I stood, and that was beside Emmy. But I also felt that Kara and her mom deserved a genuine conversation. The conversation was this past Friday. The talk started out awkward. Obviously, there were some emotions, but I started the conversation with telling everyone there would be no yelling and tears would not be used to influence anyone. After it was all said, and we began, I just proposed the situation as, this is a second home that I own fully and outright. It will be Emmy's fully legally and in name in a few years, but as of today, it is mine. However, like the house, Emmy is mine and my responsibility. No one but us is entitled to it, and make no mistake, Emmy is indeed entitled to it. It may not be fair in your eyes, but it is what it is. Emmy, I can see why they may think it's selfish, as the house can accommodate you both, but I will support whatever you want to do. This is not a discussion to change your mind, but to better understand it. It started pretty bluntly from Emmy and her mom saying they didn't understand why she didn't want her to live there, as this would dictate a huge part of her future. The answer was half expected, and the other half hard for everyone to swallow. Emmy said she didn't trust Kara to actually focus on school and not make the home into a party house. She point-blank asked Kara if she could actually accept not having guests over. Kara said something like a few people 2 or 3 days a week wouldn't be a problem. The answer should have been yes. Emmy said she wouldn't feel safe with her bringing over strange men whenever she wanted and her dad would want to visit, and she doesn't trust him at all. She said school was her main focus and staying safe would be a worry if Kara was there. Kara and her mom got defensive, but I told them it didn't matter. She can't say she won't bring people over, tells me all I need to know, and my daughter's safety is paramount, and Kara focuses were blurred. Socializing is fine, but perhaps I was wrong, and it had gotten out of hand. I told my GF that, as her mother, she would have to address that, and that whatever the plan would be for Kara's schooling, had she not ever met me, would have to be her course of action. As for Emmy, after the conversation I told her she would have a roommate, as I felt it was important. She was awkward with that and asked if she could ask a friend. I told her yes, though all is good there. As everyone guessed, GF is now ex-GIF. She asked me to stay somewhere else for a week while she found somewhere to stay. I reminded her that this was also my house, but she was free to leave whenever. She ended up going to stay with a coworker, but something happened. She asked to come back, but I told her it wouldn't be wise. That's the update. Daughter is happy. I'm better than I thought I would be. Today's a new day. X will figure it out, and Kara has time to learn and grow. To make a very long story short, this was not the full conclusion that I thought it would be. I'm not super familiar with Reddit, and I thought that update was deleted or not posted by the moderators. Kara is now in jail. She was picked up in a stolen Kia by some friends, and they used the car to break into a pawn shop. I couldn't tell you what was stolen or how much was stolen, but some football cards were taken, and I guess they were worth more than the car and building damage. I understand people will say a lot about this, but I can honestly say she never did anything remotely like this. The worst I think I saw her do was break a dish on purpose when she was 13. My ex, well, she's living at a shelter now. She was not cheating on me, and I never thought she was. That was just people making leaps. Unfortunately, the woman she was living with asked her to join her and her husband for activities after moving in. She felt she had to do it for a place to live, and she regretted it. She told people at work and was terminated after refusing a transfer. My daughter and I are good, but mentally shook. Story 2. I'm having doubts on if my daughter is biologically mine and don't know if I should do a paternity test and risk my marriage. I'm new to Reddit, but I'm currently in a tough place and need an outside perspective. Me and my wife of 3 years have a baby girl, she's 2. They're my world, and honestly I've been beating myself up even having these thoughts, but recently I've doubted if she's really my biological daughter. We have similarities, but there are certain things that have me second-guessing. My wife and I both have green eyes. I'm mixed, and she's Italian and American. My baby has brown eyes. I know it's impossible for 2 green-eyed parents to have a brown-eyed baby, but I've read it's rare. A few years back I had to travel for work, and I had my suspicions of my wife cheating, but the thought alone brought me to tears. I discussed it with her, and she assured me she was loyal to me. She has cheated in her previous relationship, but I didn't want to judge based on that because she was in high school, and we've all done dumb shit we regret as kids. I have discussed my concerns with her, and to say I caused an argument would be an understatement. She got extremely upset and asked me how I could insinuate that she would ever cheat on me or that my baby isn't mine. I've spoken to her in the past about my doubts, and she told me she would never cheat. I brought it up again and said I had my doubts, but I'll drop it, and apologized. She got very defensive and started crying, saying, "I guess you want a paternity test since you don't believe me." I said no, but after speaking with my family about it, I think I may want one just to clear my mind. If she's mine, I'll hate myself for ever being doubtful, but if she's not, I still haven't thought about the consequences that can bring. She is my daughter and I love her no matter what, but what will that do to my marriage? This has caused me so much internal conflict, and I've spent nights crying thinking I could be making the biggest mistake of my life. If anyone has any advice or has been in a similar situation from mine or my wife's perspective, it would be greatly appreciated. I don't know if this is the right way to make an update post. I did make an edit on my original post as well. I wasn't expecting to make this update, especially the day after. This conversation with my wife isn't new, but from the point where I made the comment, she's been very cold and threatening our marriage, saying I better not get the test done behind her back, and she also would not allow it to happen at all. I read comments from a lot of women saying they'd be pissed too either way if the test's positive or negative from mistrust, so I thought that was the case. We did have a long conversation this morning. She looked through my phone last night and found the post. That's what sparked the conversation again. She said she was hurt I would keep bringing this up, and I should trust her and leave my insecurities behind. It was a long conversation, a lot of tears and words were said. I offered marriage counseling and dropped the topic of the NAT test. She refused and said it's ridiculous and doesn't want to involve anyone else in our marriage. I read a lot of comments and stories saying sometimes the guilt will get to them and they'll just confess without needing to do a test. I didn't think that would happen in my case, but it did. She told me that she didn't want this to happen, but she did cheat on me and my daughter is not mine. She said she wanted me to be the father and love me and thought this would be her best option. She didn't want me to take a test and find out on my own, which I wish she would have come clean way before. I didn't know how to respond, but asked who the father was because my mind already is making a million assumptions. She didn't tell me and began crying more, telling me to not hate her and not in the marriage. I didn't say anything again, waiting for an answer. This happened early this morning and I didn't answer until this afternoon. I had to leave for work this morning, so when I came back she had calmed down a bit and was ready to tell me. Her answer was probably the last thing I was expecting. She cried while saying this, but said a few years back when I went on a business trip, she slept with my father, who she ran into on a drunk night. I don't believe it. My father passed away in December from a colon cancer when he was 45. He did meet my daughter, half-sister, his daughter Dick, but never said anything clearly. She said they both decided it was a dumb mistake, a major understatement, and it'd be best to erase it and play me as being the father. Me and my father never had the best relationship. I grew up with my single mom, but he was present in my life, and when he passed it hurt my family a lot. So hearing this broke me. I am currently staying with my brother. I haven't spoken about what I've learned with anyone, even him. I don't think I fully processed, so coming here to write this felt like a good place to get my thoughts out. I didn't say anything after she told me that and just left after she finished explaining. I don't know where I even go from here. I don't want to abandon my child while she's technically my half-sister, but do need time to process this. I don't think any amount of marriage therapy will fix this, so divorce is my next step. I'm going to seek a therapist for myself and help myself so I can be there for my daughter. Story 3. My 25F boyfriend, 25M, says really mean things to me in his sleep. I need to preface this by saying that when my boyfriend is awake, he is wonderful and I couldn't be happier. We laugh and joke all day and spending time with him in general is truly a joy. Yes, I mean this. No, he doesn't upset me at all when he's awake. Also, for some background, he works night shifts at a job he really hates, so when he comes home, he likes to just relax and unwind, usually with whiskey or beer. Typically, we cuddle or I massage his back and legs until he's drunk enough to fall asleep. Edit. He doesn't need alcohol to fall asleep. I worded this wrong. He can fall asleep fine without it. I just meant that the alcohol makes him fall asleep quicker than usual. I have insomnia, so I usually end up staying awake for a while after he falls asleep. I'm also really sensitive to aggressive tone of voice due to some past trauma. He only really talks in his sleep if I shift too quickly or try to move him over a little bit, if I have no room on the bed, or if I move the blanket too much and it disturbs him. He usually snaps at me saying, "Quit fucking moving," or "Can you please fucking stop," or "Oh my fucking god." Just things in general that give off an indication that he's really annoyed with me. There's also been a couple unprompted times where he's stirred or rolled over, I guess disturbing his own sleep, and said things like "I can do better than this," etc. Because of my sensitivity, I usually end up crying over these things. I try to make it a point not to bring up the things he says/does in his sleep, unless they're funny, which sometimes happens, because for one, I really don't think he can control it, and two, when I brought up things he said, He always ends up feeling horribly guilty for the things he says, and that makes me feel guilty for saying anything. Last night in his sleep, he ripped my blanket away from me. We sleep with separate blankets because this has been an issue in the past, and tucked it under himself and his own blanket. It was really cold in the room, so I tried to take it back, but he grabbed my hand and shoved it away. I didn't want to have to wake him up, but he's a lot stronger than me, and no matter what I tried to do, I just couldn't get the blanket back. I shook him gently and kept saying, "Baby, can you please give me back my blanket?" I was met with sleepy grunts, but he still wouldn't give it back. Finally, after a little persistence, he sat up really quickly and yelled, "What do you want to? Jesus, you are annoying." I said, "I just want my blanket back, please." He shoved it towards me and nearly knocked me off the bed and then instantly laid back down and started snoring. I didn't sleep at all last night because of this. It's really eating at me. I really don't want to be annoying to him, especially when he's trying to rest after work, but I also don't know how I can keep putting up with this. Part of me wonders if he actually means any of the things he says. When he woke up this morning, I couldn't bring myself to say anything about it, but I also couldn't look him in the eye. I guess my question in this is, am I being too sensitive? Should I bring this up to him? I don't know how much that would accomplish because he usually has no recollection of it and doesn't know how to control it. What can I do to keep my sensitivity from affecting our relationship and the way I see him/myself? Update. First, I'd like to address the comments accusing my boyfriend of being an alcoholic, being abusive, accusing me of lying about how happy I am in the relationship, or claiming he wasn't actually asleep during this and wanted an excuse to abuse me. Y'all are, and really I cannot stress this enough, fucking crazy. What a leap. He functions just fine without alcohol, and I've seen him go weeks without it. He doesn't need alcohol to fall asleep. He drinks after work because that's how he likes to unwind. The same as one might go to a bar on the weekend. And for those of you with anecdotes about how your partners started off like this before leading into full-on abuse, I am deeply sorry that you endured that, and I wish healing on all of you. But that's not what this is. I've known my boyfriend for 10 years. He doesn't have an abusive bone in his body. Update. Shortly after I made this post, I asked him if he thought I was annoying. He said, "Of course not," and asked me what prompted the question. When I brought up what he did in his sleep, he got very quiet for a short while, and then asked, "Why didn't you slap the shit out of me?" Which made me chuckle quite a bit. He then went on to say that he would prefer I tell him about the things he says in his sleep, stressing that if he crosses a line like that ever again, I have full permission to smack the life out of him. I never would. I asked him if it was a possibility that the alcohol was making his sleep more restless, and he said, "Maybe, I don't know." I then asked him if it would be a possibility to try going a couple nights without alcohol, and he agreed. Since then, our co-sleeping has been wonderful, restful, and peaceful, except for the night before last. He shook me awake while I was sleeping, and I asked him what was up. Baby, I'll show you." I had no idea what he was talking about, so I asked him. He said, "I'll show you." I said, "Baby, are you still asleep?" "Yeah, I'll show you." He instantly started snoring again. I must have giggled myself back to sleep. Anyways, I want to thank everyone for the kind advice, and we decided to cut alcohol out before bed, as it seemed to help immensely. Bless. Hi, it's me again. Going back and reading these posts was insanely difficult. I want to kick myself for how deep in denial I was. Everyone in the comments was telling me that my boyfriend is an alcoholic, and I fought so hard against that. But it was true. A few months after my last post, I had an epiphany moment. It was 3 a.m., and he was drunk. He begged me to make him a pot of spaghetti because he liked the way I cooked it. I asked him if he would strain the pot for me, because the pot we had didn't have thermal safe handles, or whatever they're called, and I often would burn myself trying to do it on my own. He grumbled for a bit and said fine, but after less than 5 minutes, he said he was going to hang out in our bedroom. I begged him not to, because he would fall asleep, and trying to wake him when he falls asleep drunk often became a nightmare of verbal abuse. He insisted he wouldn't fall asleep, but lo and behold, he did. I thought to myself, great, now I get to choose between burning my hands or being berated until I cry, all over a pot of fucking spaghetti. I chose to burn my hands. I angrily made myself a plate and put the rest in a Tupperware, and reality hit. I'm just like my mom. My mom has been with an alcoholic for 13 years. He is awful to her in so many ways, but she puts up with it because A, she feels like she can't do any better, and B, she believes it's her duty as a wife to just deal with it quietly. And I was falling down the same path. I thought that if I could just grin and bear it, he'd see how much I love him and how much I do for him, and realized that he needs to put in the same effort. Boy howdy was I fucking wrong. I took off to a friend's house for the night, and he panicked when he woke up in the morning and I wasn't there. He called me, crying, begging me to return. I unleashed all my feelings in return, and in more words, told him that I didn't have much of an incentive to return, and how could I know that he'd do better? His tears turned to anger, and he screamed down the phone. It was terrifying. I ended up going back home to collect some things, and told him that I needed to separate from him because I didn't know how to help him anymore. And as deeply as I loved him, I couldn't stay and watch him kill himself any longer. I'll never forget the look he gave me. It was like I had kicked him in the stomach. I stayed with my friend for a month or so, with little to no contact with him. I ended up having to return to collect the rest of my stuff, and I noticed something strange. He had always been kind of a slob, leaving empty beer and liquor bottles on the floor beside his bed, but when I returned, by the side of his bed were only tea, soda, and water bottles. His face was less sunken, and he didn't smell like beer at all. When he went to the bathroom, I took a sneak peek in his garbage can just to be sure. It was full, but there were no signs of anything alcoholic. He caught me peeking and asked what I was doing. He then told me that he hadn't touched alcohol since the day I left. I was shocked. We ended up sitting and talking for a while. He said being sober was hard, and he had the shakes all the time, and he missed me. I missed him too. I've been infatuated with him since I was 13. Those feelings weren't going away anytime soon. To wrap things up for the sake of character count, we ended up getting back together. He celebrates 2 years of sobriety this week. I'm so proud of him. He sleeps restfully now, with the exception of a mumble here or there in his sleep, and is no longer mean to me in any facet. Also, we're engaged now. Thanks for reading. I'm sorry I fought you guys so hard, and thank you for telling me the truth even though I wasn't ready to hear it. Do not forget to subscribe and leave comments. Videos are released every day.